And we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Renny Show. We're slightly behind schedule today because that's just how we're rolling today, isn't it, Jenny? It's lovely weather outside. The sun is out, and we're full disclosure as always. We're just doing our thing as best we can, aren't we? So welcome to episode 53 of the Renny Show. Very exciting. How are you, Jenny?
I'm very well, thank you. As you say, the sun. It's been a mixed few days, hasn't it? The
Yes.
sun is out. My washing's on the line. Um, I've had a great morning, and yes, ready for our questions. I love Wednesday lunchtimes because I'm always excited about the kind of questions that I'm going to have to think on my feet for
Yes.
to answer.
Absolutely. We fly by the seat of our pants, don't we? And we love it.
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny you should mention about questions because we actually have a listener question today. So I'm going to start with that question and I'm going to give her a shout out because she's one of our listeners. She's called Julie Priestley. Look her up, particularly if you're local to Lincoln, DBS Digital. Absolutely fantastic. And a real fan of the show, which is really lovely. So she's
You're a
given us a
fan.
question. I know, it's good, isn't it? We've got a fan. Hopefully more than one fan, but we'll take anything. So Julie's question for us today is, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give? Which I think is a really interesting question.
And I honestly, this is the first I'm hearing of this.
Yeah.
And as ever, the synchronicity of this show never fails to swell my heart. So I am part of a project with Serena Novelli called Beyond the
Yes.
Mirror.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we had to do as part of that project was to write a letter to your younger self,
Oh, I love that.
and you could. So it was a letter to your younger self, and I don't want to share all of it because it's coming out in the most beautiful, beautiful book.
Yeah.
So I'll send the link to people who might want to read the whole book when it comes out. But the premise is that thing, particularly with women, and it's across all ethnicities, ages, shapes, sizes, you name it. That it's a fabulous book. But we all have one thing in common, is that so often we aren't very kind to ourselves. And when you get to this, and often you look at photographs and you thought, oh, I hated myself in that photograph, and I look at it now and I think, do you know what? It was great. Look at that. I was having a great time. So I think my advice and it is in the letter, so you can read more. My advice to my younger self is about acceptance and recognizing that. So you can't see from this, but I've got short, sturdy legs. They've been called many times sturdy legs. Rachel, on the other hand, has very long legs. And I always used to say I have longer legs in my dreams. And then, so the letter I wrote to my younger self was about that recognition that those sturdy legs, and when I was first described as that, it didn't sound like it. When I was about 7, it didn't sound like it was something to be proud of.
Yeah.
My wonderful grandmother said, she said, you get your sturdy legs from my side of the family. And I just loved my grandmother to bits. So she
Oh,
made it sound like it was a very valuable thing to have
yeah.
inherited.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, I've had a mixed relationship with my legs over the years. But of course, when you look back, those legs might be short and might be sturdy, but they have never stopped me from doing anything that I wanted to do. And so my legs were never the problem. And so often the thing that we fixate about, whether it's, I don't know, hair, whatever it is
Yeah.
about ourselves that we don't love, we make that the problem. And of course, it isn't. My legs were never the problem. I was the problem,
Yeah.
because I let my legs get in the way, or I didn't. But that kind of thing. So I think my advice to my younger self would be, that actually you can do anything you want to do. Don't let sturdy legs or anything else get in the way of what you want to do.
Absolutely love that. And it's funny because talking about our differences in height, because we are significantly different in height, aren't we? And so
Yes.
the legs are obviously different lengths. The bit of advice I would give to my younger self is along the same lines, but kind of for the opposite. I'm not making much sense. I'll explain. So my advice would be to my younger self to stand tall. Now that might sound ridiculous because I am tall. I'm just over 6 foot. But when I was, my growth spurt, the major growth spurt was when I was in infant school. So I was head and shoulders above all the other kids, and I stuck out like a sore thumb. And there were times that was exciting when I was little, well, young rather than little, because I was never little. I was even 10 pound 4 when I was born, so I was never little. But as I got older and progressed through primary school and secondary school, yes, I was still significant in height and taller than a lot of other people, but because I'd been singled out for that, I, rounded shoulders, slumped, trying to subconsciously, I don't remember deliberately doing it, but I definitely, my posture was horrendous because I was trying to shrink myself because I didn't want to stand out from the crowd. And I think, these days I constantly find myself, every couple of minutes I'll just think, oh yeah, shoulders back. I'm very conscious, even when I'm sat, about sitting tall, and I think it applies the whole stand tall. Yes, physically is what I mean by that, but the other meaning of standing tall and proud in your chosen thing or whatever that happens to be at the time, be proud of those decisions that you make and stand tall in what you're doing and believe in it. So it's quite funny how I'm tall and you're perhaps short, if those are the
No, not perhaps. There's no
words.
perhaps about it, is there?
Yeah, it's one of those things. But actually, wherever you sit on that spectrum, it seems we all get judged for it, which is horrendous, really. What's the point of that?
And the ability to stand tall regardless of your height
Yeah.
is really, really important message, isn't it? That actually doesn't matter how tall you are, because that some of the height metaphorically comes from the inside. So
Exactly that.
there's a lot of powerful small people.
Yes.
Yes.
So stand tall no matter what your actual stature happens to be.
Absolutely.
Stand tall inside and out.
And however sturdy or long or short your legs are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So my first question for you, Rachel, is obviously we've had a kind of nod to a book that I'm involved in.
Yes.
And my question is, what's your best book for the summer? Often we have summer reads, don't we? What's your best book? Do you have a best book for the summer that you love reading?
Interesting. Do you know, I was actually talking, I can't even remember who with, the other day about the fact that I don't do as much reading as I used to. I was an avid reader all through growing up, and would often be, if it was a good book, still up at 2 or 3 a.m. reading by the light, or a torch or something. But I stopped reading at bedtime a long time ago, years ago, mostly because I'm quite happy to just go to sleep. By the time I get to bed, I just want to close my eyes and go to sleep. So I read less overall, but there are books that I still love to read. I do read personal development books. I like to read things like science fiction or science fantasy, crime novels. Definitely a good one. I'm not sure I'd consider crime novels the subject matter a particularly summary topic, but Terry Pratchett is my absolute favourite author. So because everything he writes has got so much kind of jolly, silly content in it, then for me that would be the summer recommendation for a read. I mean, and obviously he's written so many. I'm actually reading at the moment a book that was published since he passed away. It's called, I think it's called A Stroke of the Pen, and it's 20 stories that he wrote under a pseudonym when he was first a journalist. And you can see nods in those stories to what then became the Discworld, and and the stories that he then went on to write and become really famous for. So yeah, I think Terry Pratchett would probably be my recommendation. It doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing, I would happily sit and read Terry Pratchett because I know it's going to make me laugh, and I know there's some good social commentary in his writing. Some real realities of life which I like. So yeah,
excellent. Yeah, like you, I'm a huge fan of Audible because I spend quite a lot driving in the car. Audible, I'm a huge fan of Audible because I can listen to books in the car as I drive. So that's really, and I like the fact that Audible has a 10-minute, or you can set the timing at bedtime, so you can put it on and then it turns itself off. So sometimes it might be just 10 minutes before I kind of go to sleep, which I used to read, and then I'd end up being 3 hours under bed. But it's funny, isn't it? I think I usually have a kind of personal development book or two on the go, and then a kind of I'm in the mood for a bit of not having to think very hard. So I love Lucinda Riley. I love Kate Morton. I just recently discovered Kate Morton. She's a good writer, and I love going back to Jenny Eclair, the comedian. She writes amazingly. She writes really, really good books. Again, Family North. So very, very well observed and beautifully written books. So again, if I ever get the chance, if I see a book, I think, oh yes, I know she'll have written. She has collections of short stories as well as novels. So yeah.
Oh, I might have to investigate it then. I can imagine she'd be quite funny. I like her.
Yeah.
And obviously
older and wider. Older and wider.
Gee. Oh, well, hold on to that thought because I might have a question that's related to that. So here we are again. Our questions always segue into each other, even though we don't plan them. Crazy, it's the universe. And obviously, if you're listening, pop it in the comments or send us a message. You can find us both on all over all the socials, and let us know because we'll happily share those recommendations as well. So, funnily enough, that segues beautifully to my next question. So my next question, and it's a topical question for me because I have finally started listening to podcasts more. I, for a long time, didn't really listen very much because I find it very easy to zone out of background noise, and so I found I was zoning out of the podcast if I was working at the time or if I was driving. But I'm not quite sure what's changed, but I'm enjoying listening to podcasts now whilst I'm driving. So my question is, which you've partly already answered, have you got any podcast recommendations?
Oh, lots. I do. I'm a bit of a dipper inner outerer of podcasts. But I do love Jenny Eclair's. I don't know if you ever used to listen to Graham Norton on Radio 2 on a Saturday morning.
Yes.
And he used to do Grill Graham, didn't he? So he did like a problem page with Maria.
Yeah.
Well, they've just and I can't. I'm really sorry. I should know that. I can't remember the name of it. It's got quite a quirky name, as you might imagine. But it's basically Maria and Graham answering problems in their own inimitable style, which is always hilarious. So I do like listening to them. I was recently a guest, wouldn't it? So let me just find the name of. I've been on a few. I'm not completely vague, but talk to me while I just find it. So I can get the here it is. It's called Midlife Unlimited. It's a fabulous podcast with Kate Porter. And I'm not just saying that because I was a guest on it. She has some really interesting guests. They talk about all sorts of things. So that's another podcast I would highly recommend. I look at I go onto Spotify and I get search podcast and I have a quick flick and I just see what jumps out at me at that moment.
Love it. Okay, well that's one to add to my list then. The ones that I've been listening to lately. So first of all, and I think I have mentioned this podcast a couple of episodes ago, but the Reinvention Diaries, done by two friends, Michelle Wright and Nicola Auckland. One is a colour analyst and personal stylist. The other is a photographer. And we have talked about maybe doing some kind of bumper episode, haven't we, of kind of all four of us together. I think it would be absolutely hilarious. But very much in a similar vein to our podcast, I suppose. It's very conversational. I like the way they discuss things, and they've talked about all sorts of different things and had guests. They've talked about networking. They've talked about being visible. Are you a planner or a pantser? Was one of my favourites. Do you fly by the seat of your pants, or do you plan stuff? So that's definitely one I would recommend listening to, because I've found that really fun to listen to, and it really makes me smile. And I have to give a shout out to the wonderful Taz Thornton and Asha Clearwater, because they've just started doing a podcast called Awesomely Off Topic. We'll put all the details for all these podcasts in the notes below. And it's a really good listen, because again, it's very conversational. There are perhaps planned questions and topics, but one of the things that's great about their podcast is their ADHD brains mean that they often go off on tangents and go off all over the place, and it just makes for quite an entertaining listen. So I'm definitely expanding the things that I'm listening to lately. One more shout out, actually. There's another one I've just started listening to, called Let's Talk Money and More, which is obviously understandably all about money. But that's by Leslie Thomas. Again, we'll put the notes below. And there's so much in there. I mean, there's over 200 episodes now. So there's if you're interested in money and money mindset and how you deal with money, anything at all to do with money really, then that's a great one to listen to, and shows lots of interesting guests on as well. So yeah, podcast heaven. If you've got suggestions, listeners, then let us know. We'll add them to the list. Okay, so it's your turn to ask me then, Jenny.
This is a weather question. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm very excited because I have hung my washing out on the line to dry. And I don't possess a tumble dryer. So I always, rain notwithstanding, I always hang my washing out. So my question is, are you a line dryer or a tumble dryer?
Well, can I say a bit of both?
So whatever you like. There's no judgment, trusting. I know people who, tumble dry all the time. Would never think of hanging things out on the line. But I was curious. People have different reasons for doing it, don't they?
Yeah. So for me, I'm very much, I prefer to hang things to dry, whether that's on the line outside. It's probably the curse of the household. We've always got airers in the kitchen. That's particularly useful in winter because that's where we've got one of those radiators that goes from like floor to ceiling. So it's a great place to put the airers because things dry really quick. But we do the same in summer as well. I think I'm a bit lazy. I'm a line dryer at heart, but I'm a bit lazy in terms of putting it out there, because if I put something on the air in the kitchen, I can leave it for a week and it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think I'm a line dryer at heart. I don't tend to use the tumble dryer very much, really, from a kind of electricity usage point of view. I try to limit the use of the tumble dryer. Generally speaking, it will be for towels. I do like a bath towel that's been tumble dried because it's nice and soft. But then equally, it really doesn't matter because it's going to get wet anyway. So, it really doesn't make a difference. But other than that, I tend not to tumble dry very much. It might be if I'm turning something around very quickly for the kids because they've forgotten that they need something, and I'll wash it very quickly and then quickly dry it. But yes, I would say I'm a hanging dryer of varying descriptions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I say it's not a judgment. It's curiosity as ever. I'm curious as to the reason I used to have a tumble dryer when I moved into my current house. There wasn't room for one, so I didn't have one. And so I've got used to not having one. But also my children had grown up and left home, so there's only me to worry about. And suffice to say, I don't need a quick turnaround for rugby kit or cricket whites or whatever. So I think that makes a difference. And because I haven't had a tumble dryer, you just get used to it, don't you?
Exactly.
And so and I remember when my children were very little, and because I'm so ancient, terry nappies were the thing.
Yeah.
I'm so ancient that I was going to say disposable nappies had barely been invented. They had been invented, but they weren't great. Excuse me. And so it was for me the pinnacle of motherhood and apple pie was a line of nappies on the line, beautifully pristinely white, having soaked them in nappy sand, dunked them, put them in the twin tub, all of that stuff, and then hung them on the line to dry, and they were just white and fluffy and beautiful. And the baby was asleep in the pram in the garden, and that was like I felt that I'd made it as a mother when that happened. It's like, wow, didn't happen very often. But that was my benchmark. So I think there's probably something deep inside that I equate a line of washing with living life, owning it, standing tall, as we said earlier.
And you know what, tall. that really resonates for me as well, because we used cloth nappies for our kids. And there was nothing better. We were recommended even, because I used to go to sort of cloth nappy baby groups as well, because you'd get tips and advice and whatever else. And they would recommend hanging all your nappies on the line because it would help to bleach any, poo marks off, essentially. Even if they were clean, sometimes you might get staining. So it would help with that. So I loved nothing better than getting all the nappies out on the line. And there's something nice about nappies as opposed to, you know, pants and bras and t-shirts and nighties and whatever else. You know, there's just something nice about having nappies on the line. So I'm with you on that one.
See, we always say, don't we? Our questions lead us all over the place. We don't. There's no rhyme or reason
No.
to our questions.
But that's why we love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you, Jenny, is quite topical because of an experience I had last week. So I'd like to know whether you have ever been to a sound bath, or sound healing is the other name it's known by.
Yes. Yes, I have. Once. And it's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
I was at a spa recently, and the therapist had said that she was going to do a sound bath session with lilos in the pool,
Yeah.
so that you would be floating on the pool and they would do so. And unfortunately it was in the Lake District, so I said I wasn't going to be there, but if she kept us informed of when there would be future ones, then we'd try and, you know, go back. So yes, it's a strange thing, isn't it, the sound bath? Because
Yeah.
of course, it's what they mean is the immersion in the sound rather
Yeah.
than anything else. And who knew there were so many tones
Yeah.
in a gong, essentially, or
Yeah.
you know. So yes, it's one of those things that I think it's an amazing thing to experience. So if you haven't already experienced one, it's a great, don't be worried, don't be put off,
Yeah.
because that they are amazing, and you come out, um, I mean, you are grounded, but you come out, you just feel completely different, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had no idea what to expect, really. I knew the concept. I understood kind of roughly what would happen. But I went to my first one last week for a friend's birthday, and it was a sound bath on a beach. So, I mean, I being anyway, just being by the beach, the sea is wonderful and restorative anyway. But what that also meant is that alongside the sounds, a quick shout out for Peter Ison Therapies, who did an amazing job of the sound bath. So alongside all the sound that there was the sound, and there was a wind in there, and a little bit of kind of nature noises, you know, and it was just, I hadn't expected, because people had said, oh, you know, you might fall asleep, and it's very relaxing, and you know, I hadn't anticipated how the different sounds would feel, and I hadn't anticipated quite how relaxed I would be. I won't say that I went off into deep sleep, because I don't think I didn't, but I was in such a state of relaxation and just really just listening, you know, just observing, feeling, hearing, you know, it was so relaxing. And when it finished, I was like, no, that was never an hour. What? How was that an hour? And I didn't want to get up off the sand. I was just like, well, I'm quite happy here in a little blanket, and I'm quite comfortable, thanks. And relaxed. I want to stay here. So it was an absolutely incredible experience. And funnily enough, he does floating sound baths. So I'm going to have to get myself booked onto one. He books kind of, you know, little indoor pools and things for that. But yeah, I would recommend to anyone that hasn't had a go, have a go, just to see what you think, because like I say, I really wasn't sure what to expect and how I was going to feel, but it felt amazing and just so relaxing, grounding, centering, spiritual. I mean, there are so many different words you could use to describe it, but it was just wonderful. So I highly recommend it to everyone. Give it a try. Or if you're a professional at sound bath, let us know tips or any particular experiences or instruments that make it different, or different ways of doing it, because it's interesting, isn't it?
And I think if you're worried, as I was worried about, I'm not very good at meditation, I'm not very good at, I've also got one eye on what should I be doing. It can be quite difficult to let go, can't it? Especially when we all lead busy lives where we're juggling lots of things and trying to get. So sometimes just that stillness, it can take a little while to settle into that stillness. And my invitation to people is, don't worry about it, because it will happen now. Don't fight it, don't worry about it. If your mind's still really busy when you start off, it will slow down of its own accord. So don't let that stop you from experiencing it if you're worried about that, because it'll be exactly, you will experience it in exactly the way that you need to at that moment in time. And I know that sounds a bit kind of, but it's true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, definitely. Fantastic. Right, well, your question now.
I know, and it's quite a biggie to end with.
Oh gosh.
So,
okay.
As we have mentioned, I think we mentioned last show, I am in the process of moving house. So I am in the process of packing, and one of the things that you have to get to grips with is what you're keeping, what you're letting go of. And somebody had explained to me, which I knew, is that there are those of us in the world who are emotionally attached. We have a story for things, and there are those people who aren't. And so I have been very fortunate to be doing some body doubling with people who are the opposite of me. So when I'm struggling to let go of something that I've kept for years, I haven't used it, but I've kept it because somebody I care about gave it to me. They've been able to say, let it go. So my question, without singing it, my question is, how easy is it for you to let go of stuff? Are you an emotional person when it comes to things, or are you somebody who can go, do you know what, I haven't used that for ages, I'm done?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because I think by default I am a hoarder. I am someone who does struggle to let go of things. And again, it's like you've said, if there is a story attached to it, a particular time of life or a particular thing that happened, or it was given by a special person and maybe that person's gone, and so you want to hold on to that thing because it reminds you of them. That's very much me. If I had unlimited space, I mean, I've probably got an inordinate amount of stuff already, but I'd have even more if I had more space. I have found that as I've got a bit older, I've found it a bit easier. I won't say completely easier, a bit easier to start letting go of things that really don't matter. In terms of the stuff you want to keep that has sentimental value, I would very much struggle to get rid of, my Nana's pearls. I could never get rid of my Nana's pearls. I do actually wear them occasionally, but things like that feel super special. If it was a watch, would I feel the same way? I don't know, because I'd be unlikely to wear it. I don't know if that would make it different, but again, I think I'd probably feel the same emotional attachment. But in terms of some of the things that I've got rid of in recent years that belonged to the girls as they've grown up, I've found it a bit easier to think, well, for example, all the wonderful pictures that come home that go up on the fridge or whatever, I generally, unless it's something earth-shatteringly significant, I'm generally quite happy to let things like that go. The other side of that, though, is that they might want to keep them. And I find it very difficult to get rid of something if I think it might upset them to get rid of it. So all that happens then is it just gets kept in their bedroom rather than in mine. So I'm not sure that really solves the problem, but I like to think I'm getting better. However, I am a self-confessed hoarder. That, you know, there are lots of things I have in my possession that I really don't need, I don't look at, I don't use. You know, my Terry Pratchett books, I'm just looking at the bookcase over there now. I've got loads of books on it. I can't get rid of books.
I have just got rid of a whole load of books, and the only reason I was able to do it was because my friend Sarah, her dad has a book repository
Yeah,
where he looks after them, and I think he sells them on, and he raises money for charity. So I
yeah,
could do that because I know that he will love them
yeah,
and care for them until they go to somebody else. So it is, yes, it is tricky, isn't it? So
yeah,
I've recognized that I find it easier when I've got somebody to help me who isn't emotionally attached, because they
yeah,
don't have. So when I tell the story, then I can, and they look. Hi, we're not doing tug of war. So I feel I've been, but it is incredibly emotionally,
yeah,
as well as physically exhausting.
yes,
So it is. So I know I've quite a few of my friends at the moment have been in a position where they've lost parents, so they've been in the sorting out houses position,
yeah,
as I have myself, and it is a big deal, and I think sometimes we kind of um, until you have to do it, you don't realize just how big a deal it is. It is
yeah,
really, really hard to do. And so it was lovely because I put a post on yesterday on Facebook about any top packing tips, and lots of people had said be kind to yourself, which kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? Be
yeah,
kind and understanding to yourself, because actually it's acknowledging that it's hard, and
yeah,
that it's not um it's not about things for things sake. It's the memories that are attached to those things, it's the
yeah,
stories that are attached to them, that can be tricky to let go. And of course you're not really letting them go, are you, because they're in your head. But it's that we kind of need the physical
yeah.
proof, or we
Yes,
think we need the physical proof.
yes. That's
um
what I was going to say. We
um
think we need that reminder just in case we forget. Oh, but if I keep that object, then every time I find it, I'll look and remember.
yeah.
You know, whereas,
And
like
if
you
it's
said,
been in the back of the cupboard, like some of mine have, back in the
yeah,
cupboard for, years, then actually it isn't a reminder, is it? Because it's in a cupboard,
no,
and you can't see it anyway. So there is a whole, yeah, but it's a very, we could have a whole show on letting go, couldn't we? Lots of people
just
have written fabulous books um about the art, the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning is a
yeah,
fabulous book if anybody wants to have a read of that. But that thing about decluttering our lives and making space, and yeah, letting go,
yeah. There's a certain
letting
something
go of
there,
all that
isn't there,
stuff.
about the way it impacts your brain and your psyche. You know, if the house is cluttered, potentially so's your brain. Kind of that kind of thought process, which, yeah,
Mhm.
I think that can
Yeah.
be quite true.
So
Yeah.
yes.
Blimey, there you go. Well, on that note, here's hoping that that you are being kind to yourself, and that the letting go of the stuff, inverted commas, is going okay in terms of the move. Fingers crossed, not too long now.
I know. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
we won't start talking about
it's
lawyers.
no, we won't. And those top tips from this show really is about, isn't it? Being kind to yourself,
Yeah,
standing tall. However, standing tall has nothing to do with height.
yeah,
Um, and being kind to your younger self and your older self, all
absolutely.
selves, all versions of
Yeah.
yourself.
Absolutely. Brilliant note to end on. Love it. So if you've been listening in, thank you for listening. We will be back again in a fortnight. We have got some guests in the pipeline, so we will let you know when things are confirmed with all of those. But there's a number of things going on behind the scenes. But other than that, we will be back in 2 weeks' time for your next dose of honesty and positivity. So thank you very much for joining us, and take care of yourselves. I will see you soon, Jenny.
You will indeed. And just a quick reminder that if you enjoy listening, then please subscribe and tell all your friends, because the more people that know about us, the better from our perspective and from theirs. So wishing you a fortnight of inspirational brilliance, and we look forward to catching up with you again a week on Wednesday. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.